Okay, if I knew that was going to happen, I wouldn't have agreed to do this. So thank you very much. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and get this out here for the tea break time, and it is a very brief reflection on the last 10 years, or 9.95, whatever it is, years, and then something about what we're doing in the future, because I think that's important for the next 5 years. So, the mission, I've just changed the mission. It's not quite the mission we had at the very beginning. It's pretty much that. I think one of the words in the mission we had originally was world class or something like that. We felt that was slightly uncomfortable with that. So internationally leading or internationally relevant, I think, is important. So we're looking at adult social care practice in England and using research to try to improve what happens and to support improvements in that area. There were 2 phases that we've come to an end, coming to an end now. The first one had 5 universities, 6 groups in there. The second one had another 5 universities, almost the same. And I won't go through the detail, but I will just pick up a couple of things. We've had a huge number of research projects in that time. One of the criticisms, probably, of SSCR is perhaps we've had too many projects sometimes. Perhaps we've had too many small projects. But I have to say that there's not many of those 129 projects which I would look back on and say, that was a mistake, we shouldn't have funded that. There were very, very, very few of those. I can think of one, but there were very, very, very few. I may have been involved, I don't know, but there we go. But, you know, so I think we've done a lot with taxpayers' money, I think, and that's really good. We are looking to continue to do a lot, but we'd also be quite keen to see some bigger projects, more ambitious projects, and that will become easier for reasons that, well, to some extent you've heard already, and we'll say a bit more about later on. Let me just skip on to 1 or 2 other things. So these are people who were the members of the executive group in the first 2 phases, and I do particularly want to pick out 2 people on there who are coming to the end of their periods associated with the school. So Jenny Beecham, who is here, and yes, there she is somewhere, or there she is, she's hiding. There she is. Okay, so thank you very much, Jenny. Okay, so Jenny will do a twirl for you if you ask her again. So been leading at Kent and comes to the end of her tenure in the end of this month, and then Karen Jones will take over as the Kent lead. And David Chalice, who was here from the very beginning, who's here somewhere, David, and who stepped down from the Manchester lead role at the end of October. So David had 9.5 years of contributions, so thank you very much indeed to both Jenny and David. And then others, I'm not going to go through the list of names there, but there's other people then who've been involved from the universities, and then also from the sort of central admin, shall we say, central support side. In addition, and we just had that very good, I thought it was a fabulous session, the involvement session, we've had a very, very active and engaged user carer practitioner reference group, and Paul talked about the many things that group has contributed to. I've just got the list of current members, and if I've missed somebody, my sincere apologies. There have been lots of other people involved over that 10-year period. We've also had a very active and engaged advisory board. We've only had 3 chairs up until now, to David B and Randall Smith. And Randall had to step down because then Bristol became part of the school, which was a pity because he was just getting to his stride. Helena Herklotz, who stepped down when she moved away from Carers UK, and David Pearson, who was Adult Social Services Director in Nottinghamshire, is going to be the new chair of the board, which is great news. And then we've had very, very good links from Department of Health and Social Care, and NIHR over time. Emma Thompson, Ben Morgan are both here, but lots and lots of engagement, and I think it's been really fun having their involvement as well. So that's those are the names of people. Let me just do a bit more reflection on what then we've done and where we need to go forward. So I've just put up in here guiding values, and these are pretty much, motherhood and apple pie type statements. These are things that you want any research program, research project to offer. It should be relevant to the real world, or relevant to what it's researching. It should be robust in a methodological sense. That's quite a broad concept, by the way. It should be ethically sound. It should involve people in the way we've been hearing. It should promote high standards of communication, knowledge exchange, and it should be value for money. So those are the fairly standard things that we would pick out. And they have been running through the school. I think we've been good value for money. I think we're a good, we're not a cheap date. We're a good value for money research school, I think. So then what are the challenges? And I want to just pick up, I'm not going to go through in great detail these challenges, or certainly the responses, but I want to talk about the things that we're doing now that will go forward in the next 5 years to really, I think, make a difference, a further difference to adult social care research. So these are the sort of challenges that we hear, that research funding is limited compared to other areas. Methodologies, I think as a commissioning group, the school sometimes looks at research studies and says, this is a really, really important question. This is a really interesting bunch of people who want to address the question, but where's the research methodology that's going to be robust enough to deliver good evidence? And so sometimes I think social care research has struggled a bit in getting the robust designs there. That's changing for sure, but we've still got a bit of distance to go. Question of research capacity. It was great to hear Ruth's very positive views about what BAS was doing and has been doing for a while and will continue to do. It'd be great to see more practitioner researchers. We don't see that much in social care, for example, in comparison to health services. It's got increasingly difficult to get local authorities involved in research. I think it's a lot to do with the financial situation in local authorities, their loss of their research capacity and so on, but that's a challenge. It's difficult to translate research messages into policy decisions sometimes, and there's an issue about support costs for research, and I'll come back to some of those in a moment. So those are the challenges. How do we then overcome these challenges? Now, I put up here, these are kind of the general stuff. Then on top of this slide, I'm going to show you two panels of things which, some of which Louise Wood mentioned this morning, and some things that we're doing, and tell you about one or two new, I think, exciting opportunities that will be happening in the next 5 years, and very soon in the next 5 years. So I put appropriate affirmative action. We want adult social care research to get a fair crack at the funding whip, if that's a terrible metaphor, but you know, we want it to get a good share of the funding, but we don't want it to get a good share of the funding on terms which are suggesting the research isn't quite good enough. So we want affirmative support, but not to lower the threshold of quality. Okay, we must make sure that the research that we do with public money is robust enough to provide answers that people need to difficult social care and other questions. So that's where researchers need to up their game. People like me need to up our game to be better and better researchers. That's important. We want to make sure that research gets judged and assessed. I'll come back to that later on through NIHR. We want to raise methodological expertise, and it's great, the Research Design Service. I don't think we had any contact at all with the Research Design Service when we first started SSCR. There was very little engagement in phase one. It's been brilliant, growing in brilliance in terms of engagement, and they're here today, and they'll be involved much more in social care in the future. We want to attract new researchers, come back to that. Yvonne and Mike and I and all others are always sort of saying, and social care, and social care. And eventually the Secretary of State said, and social care, of course. But NIHR is very good. They're actually generally quite welcoming and will say to us, okay, so where do we need to emphasise? Where do we change the word patient to service user or some other engagement? Okay, so we want to work on the language. I won't go through the rest of those things there because I want to come back to the responses and have time just to quickly go on those. But those are things that you'll have heard throughout the conference and for many years. So what then are we doing to overcome these challenges? Action. I didn't realise I put that up there. Anyway, there we go. So there's a third phase of the school. That's great. Louise mentioned this morning the research for patient benefit. I don't like to call it patient benefit. I like to go with Robin Polisano's suggestion it should be personal benefit, but that's not yet in the proper label. But research for benefit had a social care call. It'd be good if there was more of that happening in the future. The policy research units, and Louise mentioned those and their social care emphasis. These applied research collaborations, replacing the clerks, also had strong social care emphasis, which is really, really good news. There's other bits of public money which have got social care emphasis now. Some of you will apply to some of these. And what NIHR is also doing is working with other funders. And I think there are more and more funders now out there for research funding charities. The research councils are much more social care aware, and I would say to some extent social care friendly. We've got the RDS I mentioned already. I put skilling up. We're not skilling up the RDS. We want the RDS to help to skill up the research capacity within this field. And clinical research networks were mentioned this morning to help in recruitment. So those are all some things that are happening already. Here's some more. We've got two academy-related, capacity-related things. The new School for Social Care Research has got £18 million. In the past, we had 15 million. So that's our research budget, so that's a good sign. In addition, there's 1.8 million for the first 3 and a bit years to explicitly build research capacity. And we haven't got the announcement yet, it'll be coming out very soon, and the detail. But there'll be doctoral fellowships, there'll be some full-time, some part-time. There'll be, we hope, stipends to help master's degree students do an adult social care research project. There'll be training events, there'll be a whole range of things which will be there to bring new people into the field and to train people who are in the field already. And that, I think, is really, really important. So when we get to SSCR Phase 9, there'll be 8,000 people in the room, and they'll all be super trained and so on, okay? But, you know, and I will be pushing up the daisies at that point. We're trying to liaise better with professional bodies. BASWA is a good example of that, but more generally across a range of different professional bodies. We need to build these links with local authorities. We're doing that to some extent. It needs to be push and pull on that, and we need to get local authorities more research ready so they can participate in research. And that's a responsibility of local authorities, but particularly of researchers to help them with that. We're contributing to wider NIHR discussions. 2 other things to mention. One is the Journal of Long-Term Care, and I'll show you the slide that's in your pack in a moment, and the Social Care ELF. Now, the Journal of Long-Term Care, we set it up because a lot of us were having frustration in publishing social care research easily. This is the journal which at the moment is free to submit and it's free to publish open access. There aren't many of those around, okay? So we're trying to get this out, and so please, it hasn't got an impact factor yet. It's not going to be the greatest journal on your CV yet, but do contribute. We want papers because the journal will not get established if we don't have papers. So do please think of us when you've got work coming to closure, if you like. And then there's a social care ELF, and if you don't follow the ELF already, please do. We want people to suggest papers that the ELF could write about. We want people to write summaries, bloggers for papers, so we can then share descriptions and discussions and critiques of research among the research community and the practice community. So let me then, just getting close to finishing, go on to the next phase of the school, which embodies many of those things I was talking about before. Mission is what you had before. And what we've got is 7 universities now, which is great. So LSE continues to be in the lead, King's, and then Birmingham, Kent, Manchester, and York. We've already started to commission some of the internal projects, and we'll have an external call soon. And in the pack, let us go to that now, you'll see this in there. We will be announcing the details, the launch in May. We were deliberately vague about that, but not quite as vague as some people are about green papers. But it'll be coming out in May, okay? And then we'll have that programme going through. I'll come back to that again in a moment. So the external call, we've got this new capacity development, we're refreshing our advisory board, and we're continuing to invest in involvement. I think we are doing okay in terms of involvement, and it was good to hear the suggestions from the panel now for things we could do better in the future. So that will be picked up there. Let me then go on to I think it's the penultimate slide, about the membership then. These are the key individuals in the school executive group for the coming year, and so most of them are here today. We will be the people who you can shout at or complain to or whatever as we go forward, because we'll be not running the school but making the decisions in consultation with the Department of Health and Social Care and the advisory board. 2 people on there I just want to mention, particularly Mike Clark and Angie Mehta, who do a huge amount of the work to bring together the research projects, to manage the processing, the reviewing of projects, and in Angie's case, actually organising this. She's still in the room. She knows I'm going to talk about her, and she hasn't left, okay? Each year I've noticed that she leaves the room slightly later than she used to, okay, when I congratulate her. This conference would not happen without Angie, and I want you all to thank her now, please. Thank you. Just another 5 to go, Angie, okay? All right. Okay, so then what's next? Chris had Stinky Pete this morning, and I didn't have Buzz Lightyear, but I decided to put him on there. I had the title already. So, to infinity and beyond. I hope it's not infinity, but anyway, but for a lot longer. So what are we going to be doing over these next 5 years? Obviously, we want to involve people in continuing ways and learning from that. That's a really important consideration, learning and improving that. I'm very we've had a lot of discussion, for example, Allison's point about user-led research, or research led by people with more direct experience, put it that way. That's very hard to achieve. We would love to have that. I think working in the adult social care area makes that actually quite difficult in some respects, but we need to face up to that difficulty. So that's one thing we'd really like to see going forward. We'll be commissioning empirical research, which is relevant and high in quality. We're getting tougher about what we want to commission, so bear in mind, but then there's lots of people around that can help on that. And I would really, really encourage you, if you're thinking about doing a research application in the adult social care area, please do contact the RDS. They might say, we can't help you, you're already there, or here are some things you should go and read, but they're there to help you, and they are really, really useful colleagues, so do consult with them. We want to inform practice and improve lives. That's obviously part of our mission. Better at communicating the findings. Building the research capacity. I think this is a really important new activity we're going to have in this phase, or new emphasis in our activity. And influencing other non-ASC researchers and funding bodies. And then the final thing, and this is pretty bland and obvious, is actually it's about spending taxpayers' money. I'm very conscious when I say, wow, we've got £18 million for the next 5 years, there are probably people thinking, wonder how many social workers that could employ, wonder how many frontline services that could deliver. So we have to be really, really conscious that we are spending money that could be used on direct frontline services. So we have to make sure the value of the research we do is better than that, if you see what I mean. It's going to contribute in a greater way to the improvement of services and improvement of people's lives. So anyway, I've been very pleased to stand up here for 10 years. I'm happy to do it another 5 years, and then I'm going to stop. So thank you very much.